viewers, welcome to an all-new episode of Women's World, the show where women's voices come alive. Well, I'm Sonia Bhattacharya and I'll be your host for today's program. I'm sure we all agree when we say that doctors are a very, very integral part of our lives. We all approach them every time we are, falling ill or we're suffering from a particular disease. But very seldom do we actually try to find out what are the struggles that they go through. So on today's episode, we're going to be digging deeper into that topic. Like I always say, this show is all about the unheard stories, the untold stories about women who are excelling in different professions. So in today's episode, I'm extremely delighted to have with me three very, very well-known and established doctors. So I'd like to introduce you to them. So firstly, I have with me Dr. Sthapna Sharma. She's a professor at the Guwahati Medical College. I'm also joined by Dr. Sangeeta Datta, who is a psychiatrist, a very well-known psychiatrist at that, and also one of the veteran doctors of the Northeast, Dr. Madhumita Priyadarshini Das. She's also a professor at the Guwahati Medical College. So welcome, ladies, to Women's World. And firstly, I'd like to thank you so much. It's a privilege, honor to have you with me on the show. I understand it's a very busy schedule, especially for medical practitioners, and yet you've taken out time to be here. So thank you once again. Well, firstly, let's just get started. The first question I'd like to know, this is something that always intrigues me. What attracted you so much, towards this profession? Was it a childhood dream? Was there someone else who was practicing in your family and that's why you were inspired? I think we'll start with you, ma'am. What attracted you towards this profession?
That's a very long way to go. I have been into this profession for a very long time. When I was a kid, when I was 7 years old, I had an emergency appendectomy, a surgery, emergency surgery.
Right.
And then that was my first memory of going to the hospital, seeing a doctor. And from a very bad condition, I came back to life and I was absolutely fine. And on that day, perhaps since then, I started pursuing this dream of being a doctor. And here's where I stand.
All right. So it was an experience in your childhood.
Yes, yes. In spite of all the bumps in life, I stuck to it.
All right. That's beautiful. I mean, someone saved your life.
Yes.
And that inspired you to do the same in the future.
Exactly.
All right. And we'd like to know from you as well, Ms. Sangeeta, what inspired you?
I don't have such a clear answer to the question because I remember I was quite confused as a teenager so far my choice of a career was concerned. I wanted to be multiple things.
Right.
I wanted to be a bureaucrat, I wanted to be an engineer, especially an aeronautical engineer. I wanted to fly the aircraft, I wanted to be a pilot. I wanted also to be a doctor. But somehow I believe in destiny, as I matured into an adult, young adult, I gradually realized that I want to do something for the society. And the best way to do this is to be a doctor, to serve the society.
Okay.
And perhaps that's how actually things became clearer in my mind. And from a confused state of mind, I became clearer. But so far my becoming a psychiatrist is concerned, it's a conscious choice. Because I realized very early in life that I was slightly different from a lot of other people. How? I was called a very good counselor at school. They called me grandma.
Okay.
So, I had solutions to everybody's problems in life. So that's how I understood that and plus, I had a different taste so far movies were concerned. I used to watch a lot of art movies and my dad used to ask me, what do you understand about movies which I don't follow? So gradually I understood that it is the mystery of the human mind, human relationships, which attracted me a lot. So when I started studying, pursuing medicine, MBBS, I realized that all I wanted to be after MBBS was to take up psychiatry and be a psychiatrist.
Okay, very interesting journey there. And again, a very noble start you had, to help the society, to serve the society.
Yes.
So, and the human relationships attracted you.
I realized my choice of psychiatry was more about discovering myself. I understood that the area in which I would like to work should be my passion. Until date, I love my work and I'm very passionate about it. I feel it's like watching a movie and understanding human minds.
Right, that's so interesting that you've juxtaposed it with cinema.
Yes.
And I've seldom heard people do that, so we'll get into more of that as well. So what about Dr. Sthapna? How did your journey begin?
I guess in my case I was a little more focused because I have been brought up in a family of doctors.
All right.
My father was a doctor. So since childhood I knew that I wanted to be a doctor. So and that moreover fortunately after that the subject I specialized in was in the community health, community health. And my father was a state service doctor, so that took me to the remote interiors in a few years of my life.
Right.
And that way I got a chance to work for the community also. Now I am in preventive medicine, where we need to go out to the community and work there for for a few days in a month maybe. So that's how in childhood I knew I'm going to be a doctor, and finally I am here.
Okay, so I think for all three of you, it was service somewhere, you know, that we need to contribute towards the society. And that's good to know that even in this day and age where everything is so materialistic, we still have doctors who are really working just to help people out. So, I mean, you know, Dr. Sthapna, I'll start with you here. I mean, you already had, you know, your father who was a doctor. So, you've seen how demanding this profession is. It requires a lot of your time. And it's almost like, you know, you have to be selfless. You have to think about your patients first. You have an oath that you take. So, you know, being a mother, being a homemaker, how difficult was it to manage the two? And you're still doing that. So, I'd like to know, how do you juggle?
Exactly, I'm still doing it with two kids, one who is 13-year-old and the other who is a teenager who's just entered teens, and the other is still a young child. She's 8-year-old. So, but even at this stage, I have to manage, as you have said, juggled between my profession and my kids' family. But then, thank God, in our case, I've got a very good support system of my family, my parents, my in-laws, as well as my husband. So, somehow I'm going through. There are situations when I feel guilty that I have not looked after my kids, when sometimes maybe our homework has not been done because I was not there or something. But then somehow it's going on, and I'm happy the way it's going. Yeah.
Okay, so you've managed.
And they have become independent, as I've seen that, you know, the situation teaches the child how to deal.
Very true.
And so in my case, my kids have learned how to cope with my situation, that maybe I might not be always there, but they know how to manage.
So it's got its pros and cons, and the major advantage is that your children have become more independent.
Very independent.
Right. And Ms. Madhumita, Dr. Madhumita, I would also like to know from you, you've already brought up two children, they're doing very well already, well established. So what was your journey like, parenting and being a doctor as well? How difficult or how easy was it?
I think I have a slightly different journey, a story to tell, because I lost my husband about 14 years back. My kids were pretty young. The elder one was just around 13 and the younger one, 2 sons. The younger one was just 6+. But I knew they had the spark in them, they had the ambition in them. So I promised myself that I'm going to stand like a rock behind them and help them pursue their dreams. I told them on day one, maybe the day we realized that things are not going to be as easy as it was with the father at home, a single parent with actually no family support solid staying in the house. So it was like the 3 of us. I told them, I'll do my best and you will do your best and you'll pursue your career. And by the grace of the universe, I should say, today my eldest son is placed in a good job. He is in the US, he's functioning from the US, he works for Alibaba and he's looking after Beijing, India, Paytm and all that, he's looking after a lot of things. And the younger one is graduating next year, he's also in a university in the US. I mean, I'm very thankful to God for all what has happened. Call it God, call it the unseen, whatever, because I did my best and they took care of themselves. And I should say I'm very lucky I've got a daughter. I mean a daughter-in-law whom I call a daughter. She's an American citizen, but she's got so well adjusted to us. I'm happy for whatever. I went through a lot of bumps, but I don't regret. I'm happy where I stand.
Right. And I think that's so inspiring. I think a lot of women can learn from that as well, that you've turned the stumbling blocks into, just stepping stones. And you've
Exactly. I think that was because of their help and the determination of pursuing what we wanted to.
That's a beautiful story, and I think there's so much to take from that. And what about Dr. Sangeeta? How do you manage home and work? Is it easy, difficult for you?
I don't manage. It comes naturally. It's like, well, I've also had my own ups and downs in my personal life. I cannot call myself exactly without a proper support system or with a proper support system. But having said that, I've had a very unconventional life that way. Not a typical family and a support system and all that. But I have a daughter who's 6 years of age. And I realized very early in life that I will not manage her or manage anything actually in life. I believe in the Almighty and hard work. So I started working hard, and it's about prioritization. There are only 2 things which I've done well in life. One is being a good mother, I think, and apart from that, trying to be a good doctor. Those are only two things I think which I've done well in life,
right.
And those are about my priorities. So what I started doing was, of course, very unconsciously I did this. I started treating my daughter like an adult, you know, like an individual from a very young age. So she became my best friend as she grew up. So I would share everything, happy and sad, good and bad, with her. And gradually what happened was she started understanding me and I started understanding her. So I never had to actually strike a balance between my work and home. So whenever I was late at work or I had other things to settle at work, she understood by herself. And somehow my clients also have been, I think, more cooperative so far as I was concerned. I don't know. I've been lucky that way.
Yeah.
But having said that, God has been very kind. Faced a few hardships, had good moments. But at the end of the day, I'm very happy, at peace with myself, and I feel fulfilled.
Okay, that's lovely. I mean, you've managed, not managed, you said it's come naturally to you.
Naturally to me.
And I think that's positive, even for all the ladies who are watching right now, if they're interns or they've just joined the medical profession. I think it's good to know that you can actually be successful in your personal life and your professional life as well. So, you know, let's just go back to the flash, you know, let's just travel back in time a little bit. And we'd like to know, you know, when you first joined the medical profession, and you know, just girls are usually known to have a very tender heart. You're supposed to be we are known to be a little more emotional. So when you had to deal with patients, you know, the first time you had to, you know, touch the knife and put it on someone's body, what was that moment like for you? I think we'd like to know from you.
I am a physician.
Right.
As of now, my area of specialization is rheumatology. I look into joint diseases. But this came much down later. You know, when I got married pretty early, I mean, just after my graduation, I got married, and then my dream was to become a pediatrician initially.
Right.
When I was an undergrad student, somehow I used to look up at pediatricians and I wanted to treat children. But since I got married early and my eldest son was born during my internship, so by the time it was time to join my post-graduation, I told my husband, I cannot tolerate a baby falling sick. I mean, it was beyond me to, you know, even see a child falling sick. You know, I could see my son in every child. And it was on that day I decided, no, pediatrics is not my subject. And I switched over to my next choice, which is medicine.
Medicine, okay.
And that's how I, you know, felt the perception of, you know, going across, I mean, from my original choice to something else, which I've never done in life. It was just because of my son.
Okay, I think for women, the journey is always a little different compared to a male doctor. We'll get into that. I'd like to know a little more on that as well. But Dr. Sangeeta, what was it like for you? The first time that you know, actually had to start with the postmortems and the operations, what was it like?
It was difficult. As I told you, I'm okay with the human mind, which is abstract,
yeah,
you know, but with real human bodies, it was very difficult for me and I didn't like it, to be very honest.
Yeah.
But then just because it's a part of the curriculum, I have got to do it, I did it. But the first feeling that I had was, no, I mean, why did I get into this? It's so difficult, you know. I felt the cadavers, the dead bodies were alive actually. And I found it so difficult to actually put the scalpel there and to incise. So, but gradually with, you know, maybe with practice and habit and all that, I could. And I used to compare myself with my colleagues, with my classmates, and they were doing it quite easily as compared to me. But I did understand, like Baido said, you know, we all realize as we down the line, I did understand that surgery, or for that matter, anything to do with the knife and human bodies, I couldn't manage. So I had to do something more abstract, more subtle. That's how I'm in psychiatry.
Okay, all right. That's interesting there. And I think one thing I've observed is that, you know, that brings me to my next question, is that when it comes to the surgical fields, we do see fewer females. Do you think this could be one of the factors?
I think so, if I'm allowed to speak. I guess women are more, you know, I mean, they're more sensitive, emotional, and I had read somewhere, correct me if I'm wrong, Baido, she's there, but I heard that that is one defense mechanism that's called, you know, that's a defense mechanism in psychiatry. When a person has a lot of aggression within, the person becomes a surgeon or someone, a sportsman or something, you know, to express the aggression in a more sublimated way. That's called sublimation in psychiatry. But that's one explanation given. But having said that, it's a fact that we see fewer women in these fields. And I think women feel more comfortable with gentler fields. I don't know, but cannot generalize again.
there's a
Cannot
point,
generalize
yeah.
again. You know, there cannot
Right.
be generalizations. There could
I
be
think
exceptions.
Dr. Madhumita, you'd
Yeah,
like to add.
remember, you know, obstetrics and gynecology is a surgical subject, and that's female dominated. There are
But
certain
that's again got to do something with mothers and babies.
yes,
you know?
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So there are
Yes,
hospitals
yes.
in Rajasthan, in Gujarat, and places like that. In the whole department, you have only
Females. But when we only gynecology.
Yeah, that's I'm talking about gynecology.
Gynecology.
But I'm yet to know a female orthopedician. I know only
Right.
one.
Yeah.
There are fewer, yeah.
There are fewer,
ones. There
but
could
we
be
have
exceptions.
wonderful, successful plastic surgeons. We have
yes,
other
yes, yes.
surgeons,
Right, and,
ENT surgeons.
In my case, it
I,
was a little
yeah.
different. What happened was
But
first
plastic
thing-
surgery, sorry, is it very masculine? It's
It
more,
isn't.
It's more to do with
It is.
cosmetics and
It
beauty and all
isn't.
that,
It isn't. That's what I'm saying.
It
Right, Dr. Sthapna, you'd like to add.
Yeah, in my case, if you have asked about the surgery, I still remember my first day in anatomy when I went inside the room and the cadavers were lying there. We have to follow the Hippocrates oath. We have to actually give them all the respect, with due respect.
Yes.
But that was something so shocking on the first day. I saw the cadavers and something which still, that sight still remains with me.
It's traumatic.
It's traumatic.
It
I mean,
is.
he's a dead person. Why? Like, you know, for
Exactly.
me. And then after that, I came back. I still remember the nightmare I had. I saw myself in a tank, closed tank, and there were all water hyacinths all away. And there was a cadaver which was floating and always coming.
that was the
chasing.
nightmare you had after
That
your first day
night,
at anatomy.
Believe me, that night I had that cadaver. that night.
It's an awful experience.
Yeah, that was the first day. But I'll tell you, especially with after that, you're getting so used to your anatomy classes. Then after that, you're having a tiffin maybe.
You're having
near
a
the glass.
sandwich.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
You're
That's
having a
That's
sandwich
experience.
with the
Yes.
fat on your fingers.
Yes.
Yeah, so
we do
eventually
that.
you become okay with it and you have your lunch next to the corpse lying just
We
next to you.
actually become desensitized to this entire environment. You know,
And
that's
do you
get
think it was
exposed.
easier for your male classmates to do it the first time?
That's what the aptitude as she had spoken
Right.
about. They were more inclined with knives, and they were better in some cases.
Comfortable.
They were
Right.
more comfortable, exactly. I do not know why.
I
That's-
don't know if this is an appropriate example, but
Yeah.
if you look at a girl child, she's more comfortable with dolls. If you look at a boy child, he's more comfortable with gadgets and
Right.
But again, there are exceptions. We cannot generalize. So perhaps there are something inherent within us,
Yeah.
Yeah,
deep
something
within us.
beautiful.
Something.
Considering that you're a psychiatrist, I'd like to just ask you, considering you've just mentioned about the dolls and the gadgets,
Yes.
is this something that is inherent, like you've said, or is it something that the society has created? The minute
Both,
a child is born,
both,
we
both.
give
Actually,
the
it's
girl
both.
a Barbie and we
It's
give...
both. There is something which we carry with our genes and our genetic makeup and our hormonal makeup, and there's something which is conditioned by the society too. Because see, a lot many times, I just want to give you an example. A lot many times there are children, there are kids who are born with this inherent tendency. They're born boys, but they feel like girls,
Yes.
And the society tries its level best to actually make them true boys, and they fail. There are a lot many famous names also, in fashion industry, in acting industry, everywhere
Yes.
actually. So basically you cannot impose something which nature has not given to you. But at the same time, yes, if a boy is born a boy, like a normal boy, and if the society actually places him in a situation which is quite abnormal and unhealthy for the upbringing, then I'm sure there'll be there'll be problems and
There'll be repercussions
there'll be
there as well.
aberrations.
Yeah.
So, but it's a combination of both.
Both.
But we cannot deny the biological part of things also.
Absolutely.
Nature and nurture.
Nature
and nurture.
versus nurture.
Right,
Yes.
right. This
So-
conversation is getting so intriguing. I wish we would never have to stop. But right now, we'll just have to quickly slip into a break. So viewers, right now, we'll just take a quick break on Women's World, but lots more coming up on the other side. So don't go anywhere. Hello viewers, viewers, welcome back. You're still watching Women's World and I'm still in conversation with three lovely ladies who are also medical practitioners, and we've been having some very interesting topics that we've been talking about, your journey and how nervous you were in your first anatomy class, right? So, I mean, considering the fact that you've all also done your rural posting as well, you've had night duties that you had to do. So, I'd like to know from a girl's perspective, how easy or difficult was that? The night duty part, you know, considering that you have different types of patients who come at night, sometimes people who are in inebriated conditions, you've had to handle people like that. So what was that experience like for you? So we'll start with you.
Okay, night duties used to be initially a horror story. Yes, I mean, I used to be pretty scared, you know, the day I had night duty, all full of apprehensions, because as I told you, I got married pretty early. I had my kid already by the time I had my night duties. So that was a big hassle at home, managing my kid without breast milk. And
doing night duties at
oh
home
yes, I mean
for
no,
your kid? No.
that yes, and in the hospital to leave
Already
my
practicing.
child at home and go, and all that was there, yes. And the other part of the story, the professional part, where yes, you see all set of patients, different kinds, different attitude, you would know how to look into that. I mean, they have high expectations. Some, of course, they just come and dump their patients and go away. So initially, it was very difficult. And on certain days, you know, like it was a festival, like, you know, Bihu, Christmas, Shivaratri was a very bad night duty. People would come all intoxicated. And I used to be
What
very
about
scared.
Holi? Did that happen in Holi
Yes,
as well?
Holi.
Would be
I mean,
another one.
it used to be horrible. It used to be horrible because besides the duty, we were scared of, you know, handling ourselves, and gradually, I mean, and gradually we got used to things, and we have gone through that part, and now we stand at a more
So is it
comfortable
more difficult for a
position.
female then, or do you think it's
I mean,
the same for both?
actually, see, I'll tell you, it depends on the situation where you are. If you're in a rural environment where you have less of support system, less of people with you, even in the new medical colleges as of today, we feel very uncomfortable. I was still 4 months back working in Tejpur Medical College, where I used to feel pretty scared, you know, because we used to attend to calls at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in spite of being senior doctors, okay? I would open my jewelry and go. That used to be the kind of, I'm talking about 4 months back. But that is there when you are alone, but in a bigger hospital with more of people around, the safety part is very well taken care of, and we feel absolutely fine and comfortable attending to patients because we've got enough of safety. But in places where you're alone, yes, that is still a concern even today.
Right. So do we not have proper security then that's provided to interns who are posted in the rural areas?
See, in my case, it's my subject deals with rural health and especially community medicine. We need to go out into community, and sometimes it happens that we might have to stay there for around 7-8 days. So we have gone to the remote interior charred areas. We have stayed there, and we have also stayed in the remotest of area where no other facilities, maybe even the drinking water is not available until unless provided by the health people. So I have stayed there, and frankly speaking, yes, that was a little bit of a different experience, because especially when you need to use the your private loos. So those times, you know, I have those experience that there was only a duck hole, and then maybe we might have to go use that bathroom also. But maybe because I have been here for the past 11 years in this profession, in my subject, I am getting used to that, and rural health is now much more easier for me, especially when we need to go out for to do services. My subject deals with UNICEF and WHO. We work together sometimes, and then that time we need to go to the community. As for security, 3 months rural posting, interns, especially you're asking about interns, 3 months of rural posting when they come to our subject, under our subject they need to do. In our subject we send them to Boko and Rani.
Right.
So for the females, we have Boko in Boko. It's well secured. We have the chowkidars, and moreover, we are there. But of course, that is the first step that they're getting in touch with the public. Actually, when they have to manage their own, that is their first practice, their first exposure. Their first exposure when they'll have to manage themselves, because later in life they'll have to manage themselves. Throughout the medical life, they had been with the teachers. They're cocooned in their in a medical world. But in the internship, their first posting in the rural posting. So in that way, I mean, we are there, but some amount of protection they need to do with they need to have their aptitude actually for me.
And that is provided by the government.
Yeah.
We have adequate security.
We have.
But I'm just talking about the inner feeling.
Right.
I mean, there is security.
Security.
Nothing actually happens, you know, you have security around.
Yeah.
But the feeling.
The feeling.
Exactly.
I understand. And what
But in
about
our, you know, I have to say something else too. When we were interns and we had night duties for the first time, what I felt was our, you know, our male counterparts, you know, our classmates, they were so helpful. They would actually jump into a situation and try to help rescue us if there was such a situation,
Right.
number one. That's what I feel.
As I told you.
They were
if
so
you have-
protective.
yeah, if you
They were
have
so
people
protective.
with you, you feel
Yes.
so good.
But having said that, my exposure to night duties, I was very briefly with Guwahati Medical College, which I came out of that situation. As a psychiatrist was different because there are different professional hazards there. You get to see violent patients, you get to see inebriated patients, intoxicated patients. You get to see a lot of psychopaths, people with antisocial personality disorders.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you get to see them more at night. They're more active at night.
At night.
Exactly. Yes. So that way, I remember having a tough time, especially during night duties. There were safety issues. There were, you know, there was a feeling of being invaded into, you know, your space being invaded into,
right.
etc. But I must tell you, ever since I've been into private practice, which is for exactly the last 11 years, these professional hazards have not only been during night, they can actually crop up even during daytime. Because, but this is again related to the branch that I am in. And we have learned to deal with it. We have our own techniques of managing our safety,
And the
etc.
pseudo-psychopaths are even dangerous.
They
really.
even more, she's so right. The pseudo-psychopaths, what she perhaps means, I don't know, she'll be able to explain that better.
Yeah.
But these are people who look and behave so normally, normal otherwise. But in your clinic, in private, they're very different and dangerous, you know.
exactly.
They are so different
Yeah.
and dangerous. And I call them people who actually know how to wear the mask so well.
Exactly.
They're not
Nobody
genuine
would
people.
believe.
They can be extremely manipulative and they can actually, you know, manipulate regarding anything and everything. So the moment you sense it,
Yeah.
you need to be on your, you know,
Guard.
on guard.
Guard, right.
And you need to be careful. That's it.
And then eventually you learn to develop your own tactics and
You
protect
develop
Yes,
your own
yes,
tactics.
yes.
Like I have a escape route. Every psychiatrist should have an emergency escape route for violent patients.
Right.
I always have an attendant. I never see anyone alone. Never ever. And because of incidents in the past, experiences in the past, and nowadays most hospitals are CCTV covered, you know. So
That's a
in
good
case
thing,
there are
yeah.
pseudo psychopaths, like she said,
Yeah, that's really scary, you know.
That's really scary.
And these days, actually, people just come and ask you, "Ma'am, I want your cell number." And
Yes.
I mean, it's very difficult to say. I mean, I still sometimes use the thing like, "I don't have a cell phone," and then your phone rings right in front of the patient. I mean,
And despite the
they're-
fact that
they're-
you're such a senior doctor now, you still have these
Oh
experiences.
yes,
Of
because
course.
people's expectations are beyond imagination. It depends from person to person.
Right.
Some people are very well behaved, very good, very
Yeah,
nice.
plus,
They would
I know,
never.
I'm sorry.
yeah,
Plus, for pseudo psychopaths, like she said, there's no value system.
Yes.
There's no respect. You know, the
Right.
basic human virtues that we talk about,
exactly.
that's missing.
Yes.
So how do you handle it when you have such pseudo psychopaths? You use your escape route that you've spoken about.
That I use with violent patients.
Violent patients.
Yes. And with pseudo psychopaths, it's more an emotional barrier that needs to be established.
Right.
Like she said, can I have your cell number? They start WhatsApping, crossing boundaries.
Yeah.
Initially very subtly, later, you know, it becomes very overt. But, you know, you have to send messages. And it can actually range from very subtle things to very gross things also. So I think we have to look at it from, you know, it varies from situation to situation. We have to individualize things. And that happens not only in psychiatry. Nowadays, I'm sure it happens
In
everywhere.
everywhere.
You have to be strong enough to draw your line.
Yeah.
So henceforth,
Absolutely.
I feel that
And
those
assertive
3
enough.
months,
Right,
Exactly.
And
Dr.
assertive
Papa
enough
said.
too.
Yeah, so in fact, I would just suggest that there was a little repercussion amongst the students that why we need to do the rural service, especially with this competition coming
Yes,
over,
yeah.
that they need to appear for their entrance just immediately after they are out of their final MBs. So those 3 months actually, when they are going into the rural service, that actually prepares them for the future. So I think that they should take it a little bit more seriously.
Right.
And yeah, only 3 months,
Yes.
but that's going to prepare them for the next around 50-50.
Right.
Practical
But
works.
Dr. Sthapna, you just spoken about the little inconveniences that you faced when you go to
Yeah,
these remote
exactly.
areas where there's no proper infrastructure and you
No.
have to just use a hole that's been dug into the ground.
Covered with a jute bag.
So should we?
Yes,
exactly.
Even today?
Even today, and then your head is out.
because for your male counterparts, that would be easy, because I mean we see that they do it pretty openly. I mean, I don't know if that's good or
Yeah,
bad, but
exactly.
then males are more comfortable doing it in the open for some odd reason. So do you think that we should take this matter more seriously, and rather than just getting used to it and go with the flow, I think we need to draw a change, make maybe demand for better facilities?
We have to demand for better facilities, but in our case what happens, we go there only for a couple of days.
Right.
Only our work take us there for, maybe we go for an immunization survey, or maybe we go for maternal death survey. So when we do that, that means those are for a very limited period of time. So at that time you cannot go and demand something from the government or anyone. But so maximum you can do is adjust, but you can come back and inform the authorities that this happened.
Right.
And that is there, because we are only, those are transit areas actually.
But I have a question.
Yeah.
Have things changed gradually?
In this last 11 years, you
yeah.
can say, in my experience, yes, I would say the especially with roads, communication, it has become much better.
Okay.
Except for the char areas. In fact, it's the strangest thing is, the best time to go to the char area is during the monsoon, when the river is swollen. And especially the first time when I went there was that it was in the month of August, and the whole river Brahmaputra was swollen with all whirlpools, we call it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And our jetty was inside, and I was too scared to go into the water. I rang up my sir, and we are not doing it. Sir only said that you have to do it.
You have
know
to
how
do
to
it,
swim?
and that's it.
No, I don't. But anyway,
Definitely not easy.
That you don't know how to swim.
Yeah.
No, and it's
That's
no
why she's so
point.
scared.
So it's definitely not easy to be a female doctor. I think
Not at all.
many a times we
Certain
only
situations,
see the benefits that come with it, the good reputation, the respect that
The
comes with it.
glitter and the glamour.
Yeah, the glitz and the glamour.
Exactly,
but
that's
there's
what,
a
but
lot
the
of
right
behind the
term.
scenes
Yeah.
hardships
Yeah.
that you have to face.
Yeah.
Pseudo psychopaths as well.
Yes.
That is a very interesting information that we've just gathered. And I think right now one more thing we'll be digging deep into is how do women, being such emotional people, draw a line when they treat patients. That is something that we'd like to know. But viewers, on that note, we'll just take a quick break, but lots more of exciting stuff lined up on the other side of Women's World, so stay with us. Welcome back, viewers. You're still watching Women's World with me, Sonia Bhattacharya. And without further ado, let's just quickly get back to this very interesting conversation that we ladies definitely don't want it to end. So, Dr. Sangeeta, you're a psychiatrist, and I think it's the perfect opportunity to ask you something that I've always wondered. If you can just quickly give me 5 very interesting differences between men and women, mental differences.
Well, I'll give you a few differences which are relevant in psychiatry.
Right.
Okay. So the men would hate me today because basically it's about a human being at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
As I said, we cannot generalize things. There are exceptions. But when we talk about the differences of between a man and a woman, we have to remember that social conditioning and societal norms, etc. also play a huge role. How a man, how a boy or how a girl is brought up to the stage that he or she is in today. And here I must tell you, in a patriarchal society like ours, there are lots of differences. It's not just related to doctors. See, but psychologically, women are more emotional.
Yeah.
That's why women suffer from depression 4 times more as compared to men.
Men, okay.
Okay. Men are less emotional, but there are emotional men too. And apart from that, when it comes to suicide, there's another difference I want to tell you. Women attempt suicide and threaten suicide far more often as compared to men. Okay. They say that a man who's actually going through death wish and suicidal ideation, usually does not express. They're more silent.
Exactly. That's what I was wondering.
Yes.
I mean,
That's
they know
why.
how to cover it up.
They need to cover it
They
up.
need to cover it
because
up.
boys don't cry.
Yeah, that's it. Boys
Exactly,
don't
don't
cry.
cry.
Boys
That's
don't
the
cry.
belief system, you know.
Why are you
And
crying like
they
a
chara
girl?
boys,
Yeah.
you know.
And that has a long way to go, I feel.
Yes, it does.
I mean,
Madhu.
you shouldn't actually say that, isn't it?
You
Boys
shouldn't.
should
That needs to
cry.
change.
Boys should
Boys
cry,
should
girls
let
should
out.
cry. We are all human beings.
Human
we cry,
beings,
we
we have
laugh, we do
emotions.
everything.
No, but then
So
boys do cry, but inside a closed room.
Inside
what
the-
happens? What
The
happens?
Indian society says boys don't
Boys
cry.
don't cry.
When the
Indians
boy
don't
cries,
accept
many
it.
mamas say, no, Baba.
You're not
the
allowed.
boy doesn't cry.
Boy doesn't cry.
You're supposed to have like this tough exterior.
Yes. So no matter what happens within, they are not supposed to show it. So what happens is that's why the rate of successful suicides is far higher in men as compared to women. Women attempt much more, but men succeed much more. You know
Okay.
why?
That's a very interesting fact.
We use two words, the intentionality and the lethality. Intentionality of suicide and the lethality, the weapons that they use or the methods that they use is far more as compared to women in men. Because when they think I'm going to die, nobody can stop them
I
actually.
mean, the
Yeah.
threshold, it builds up,
builds up.
and then the volcano just erupts.
Plus there is another difference. Women are more attention seeking.
Exactly.
So sometimes, I'll die. That's also attention seeking behavior.
Yeah.
Men are not so much attention seeking. They're okay with what
They're
they have got.
comfortable with what they are.
But there are exceptions to
There
that
are exceptions
as well.
too.
Exactly.
And apart from that, there is a book which I had read, I think both of you have read too. Men are from Mars and women are from Venus.
Venus,
So
right.
it talks about a lot many differences between a man and a woman. But let me tell you one thing, since we have come as doctors today on this show, it is not easy being a professional woman in a society like ours. No matter how often we say there's no gender bias, and especially in Assam they say that, well, gender bias is something which happens only in the northern part of India. No, it's a lie. I have been a victim. Personally, I can say
Right.
this on a live show. I have been a victim of gender bias. I have been a victim of chauvinism, male chauvinism in life. And I'm not
in this
ashamed to say that.
profession, in your
Yes,
profession?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm not ashamed to say that because I have outgrown and survived everything. That makes me feel proud.
I think we definitely need to elaborate
There's
on that.
another point of sexual abuse of women in the workplace. Okay,
Absolutely.
and I have seen cases happening also in our profession. So I don't think a man is so vulnerable to be a victim of sexual abuse, but I have seen that. I've counseled doctors who are my colleagues who have suffered from that. And this is my real life experience, I can tell you.
Okay, that's a very interesting point that you brought out, because all the people that I've interacted with, they said, no, this is one profession where we don't have much of a gender bias, but we've just heard an exactly opposite statement coming in. So if both of you would
I've
also
seen
like
that.
to add to that.
And besides being a doctor, I am also talking as a single female. I
Yes.
became single pretty early in my late 30s. I lost my husband. So it's very difficult. I wouldn't say the society in Assam is any way easier. I have
Yes.
gone through a lot of bumps in bringing up my children, my profession. Wherever I am today, it's very difficult to elaborate and to be very open about many things in life. But this world, especially, I don't know, the people I interacted with, there's very little of empathy. People love to sympathize. People love to have a pity on you.
Pity,
Oh
right.
my God, this has happened to her. It's very sorry. But yes, if you start climbing up, if you stand up, if you're on your own, you pick up enemies. There is
Yes,
no
you do.
That is
empathy in
very
this
true.
world. There's no
Yes,
empathy.
you
Very
do.
true.
You do.
Yeah.
A woman is supposed to be a woman. You're supposed to be a mother. You're supposed to look after your children. Why run after your profession? There have been people who told me that.
Who've told you that?
Yes.
But you mean to say that a woman is supposed to be a mother, as she has said,
Right,
but
her
not an
priority is a
alpha
homemaker.
female?
I don't know what a
We don't want to be alpha females, do we?
Yeah,
We
no.
just want to be a normal female.
normal female,
I am
self-sufficient
even-
in many
I'm not
ways.
even a feminist, I mean, in the true sense of the term,
Yeah,
like they talk
exactly.
about feminism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But is it wrong to want to be a good human being? Is it wrong to actually, share a platform with a man and be respected? I don't think
Right,
so.
and Dr.
And to be
Thabna,
self-sufficient.
we'd also,
Exactly.
yeah.
And About Baido, I just want to share something. We were still studying with students when you were going through a very tough phase. I still remember. I salute her. I respect her for the way she had actually carried herself those days. It's not easy for a
It's not
woman.
easy.
It's
For a
not
woman,
easy,
a
Baido.
single
Hats off to
parent,
you.
Thank you.
Right.
Hats off
But
to you.
I had the bumps. I had the
Yes,
bumps,
I remember those
which
days.
I swallowed.
But all's
Yes.
well that ends well.
Of course.
So,
Yes.
I mean, that's
And,
great. And
yeah.
Dr. Sthapna, we'd also like to know your perspective on this. I mean, sexual harassment at workplace, gender bias in the medical field, that is something that we usually don't talk about.
I have actually a different story from them, because my subject, especially since we are talking from our perspective,
Yeah.
my subject, there's no gender bias, nor are there sexual harassment cases, but frankly speaking, there are certain limitations for us. Suppose, as I've told you, we need to go out to the field and we need to cover the different districts. So frankly speaking, but today if I'm given an option to choose between a nearby district for my field work and a farther district where I know I'll not be quite quickly accessible for my family, I'll choose the nearby district. And my male counterparts, they'll be taking the difficult ones where they'll be more exposed to the actual situation. You know, suppose frankly, I don't know if I should say it in front of the camera, but I'll always prefer to choose, because we need to go out to the field, I'll prefer to choose Kamrup Rural or Nalbari maybe, because
a
it's
place that's
nearby and I
near.
come back
more
home.
convenient.
Yeah, I'll be able to come back home at night, and I
Right.
do not want to do a
Yes.
night stay,
Yes.
because we need to go out for around a
So your-
week or
so your
two.
male
Very few
counterparts-
people really understand that
Yeah.
limitation. Do you feel
Yeah,
that? That's-
exactly. No, we are given a choice, and I'll always choose for that. That's where my limitation in my field comes.
Exactly.
When I
frankly.
talked about a gender bias, let me correct myself, or maybe I got it wrong. It's not exactly the workplace that I have faced or women psychiatrists
okay,
face.
yes.
Okay, yes, about sexual harassment, I'm very clear about that. So about the gender bias, what I meant to say was it's very difficult. Being a professional, you should be treated equally in the society, because you know your number of working hours, the kind of work that you do, etc. But you're treated differently in the society, in your home, etc. because you're a female. You know, that's what I have gone through, and I have not felt ashamed of saying that
exactly.
I've faced it in my own life. Okay, so had it not been me, had it been a man who was a psychiatrist and doing the same kind of work, I'm sure these kind of limitations or whatever you call it wouldn't have come in. So that part I would call a gender bias. It's more a family and a society related thing than a profession related thing in my case.
Okay, and I think we face this everywhere, you know, where certain family members will always tell you, tone it down a little bit. You know, when you're very career oriented, when you're very focused, you know, your priorities are supposed to be different because you're
I
a
had
female.
colleagues telling me,
You had
more
your
than
colleagues,
family. I had
right.
colleagues
Colleagues
telling me.
you.
That your children
Yeah.
should be your priority now instead
Yeah,
of your
because
work.
you've lost your husband, your children should be your priority. Why spend more time for your profession? I mean, I know where I stand. I know
Right.
what I need for my children. But my parents were very supportive.
Even
Yes.
my friends told
Yeah.
me, I remember, I have a similar experience. They said that for females who actually are very successful, they need to be single. You know,
Oh, really?
A few of my
they
friends
need
said,
to
which
be
I did not,
single.
which I didn't accept, because they feel that it is only singlehood which can allow you the liberty and the freedom to actually flourish in your profession, because otherwise limitations come in. And my answer was, no, there are always exceptions. You cannot always generalize,
Right.
you know. We know a lot of women who have healthy families and yet they're successful. But the general, you know, understanding and the belief system has become like that, because a lot of women, I don't blame these women also, because a lot of women have actually gone through this.
Right.
They've had to make a lot of sacrifices, compromises in their
Exactly.
life, especially related to their careers, just because they were a female.
But
Do
what do
you
you think they're
sacrifice
changing?
or
Right.
just toning down?
Toning
but
down.
do
Yeah,
you think
call it
it's your
sacrifice.
acceptance?
Again, you know, whether it's adjustment, it's a compromise, it's a toning down, or it's a sacrifice. Again, it depends. Because when I
Yeah.
say compromise, it sounds negative. When you call it adjustment, it's for positive. So it
Positive.
depends.
Even
When
if
you
call
call
it
it
sacrifice.
toning, it's okay.
Okay.
It's
okay,
your
it's very
threshold.
right.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
nice,
It's your threshold.
yes.
One thing which always was, I found it interesting, do we ourselves limit somewhere? Do we put that limitation?
Sometimes
ourselves?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, sometimes
Very
yes.
much.
Exactly.
Because
yeah.
as we mature, we
Yeah.
know our limitations. That
Yeah.
this is
That's
where my
conditioning.
teenage
That's the
child wants
conditioning.
me.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So
This
that
is,
time we were
this
going
is,
to,
this
yeah.
is the crossroad of life. My
Yes.
son, my daughter
Yeah,
wants
yeah.
me.
We do it.
So yes,
and
I have
a
to give up.
society where we grow up in, you know,
Yeah,
somewhere we
exactly.
have grown up seeing things. This is how
Yeah.
things are to be.
Yeah.
So sometimes when the limitations are not external, I think internal cues
as well.
from
Right.
ourselves, which
Yeah.
actually is
So,
so limiting.
In my case, I've seen that, okay, my husband, he cannot do much of the family work, no. But the best gift he has given to me till date is my independence. I'm a completely independent woman. I do my own work. I go out with my friends. I have my own set of family time.
Yeah, you have your
But
space.
I have a own set of friends time also.
Also.
I give my, I mean, at least I know I
So
go
there's
out
a lot
with
of
them.
support coming in from your husband as well, and
Yeah,
that has
right
contributed.
from, only from the independence point of view,
Right.
yeah.
From the independence point of view.
Independence point of view.
Because we know how to
Point to
handle
be
it.
noted.
Right. So Dr. Sangeeta had said something, you know, that women are more emotional as compared to men. And considering the fact that you're doctors and you obviously have to deal with patients who come with different ailments, some who are probably in a very critical stage, you don't know to what extent are they going to survive, how long are they going to survive for. So that reminds me of this very famous dialogue which Boman Irani had said in the film Munna Bhai, you know, when the interns had come, and the first dialogue he said is, don't love your patients. You know, that's what he said, that don't get emotionally attached when you are dealing with your patients. So being a woman, I'd like, maybe from Dr. Madhumita we'd start, how did you manage to do that? You know, considering the fact that you gave up on pediatrics because you could not even see a child sick, because you saw your son in every child. So to what extent have you been able to, you know, curb your emotions?
See, there is a different interpretation to the word emotion.
Right.
You have to be emotionally attached to your patient if you want to do your best. I mean, you have to look into everything. Like when we look into a patient, we look into the patient as a whole. His financial background, his family background, the illness, the seriousness of the illness, the treatment options, what best I can offer. Okay, that is the emotional involvement with the patient. If you want to be more emotionally involved beyond that, you will become medically blind. You know what I'm trying to say? That's the reason why a doctor should never decide to treat a family member. If tomorrow my dad's not doing well, I would go to a doctor, even if it is a physician, who I am already one, because I become emotionally blind towards my father.
And that affects the way you treat the patient.
Exactly. I mean, I would become medically blind. I wouldn't be able to pick up the right decision. So you have to be emotionally attached, but the kind of emotional attachment with a patient and the kind of emotional attachment with a family member is very different. And that you actually cannot cross over. It's not possible, at least in case of me.
Yes. I would like to add something to it. So far as psychiatry is concerned, there are two things, you know. I have realized one thing is that no matter how good a counselor or a psychiatrist you are to your patients, you cannot counsel your own family members and closest friends. This is not only about emotional attachment, it's also about ghar ka murgi dal barabar. You don't pay heed to what you say.
Exactly.
You know? So that is one thing. But on a more serious note, I would like to talk about something which we call transference and countertransference in psychiatry, I mean to say. See, in our practice, what happens is a human being comes to us, be it a man or a woman, and talks his or her heart out. You know, talks for a long time, comes for sessions, talks and talks and talks. And most of these people, why most? All of them are unhappy. People do not see us when they're happy. Okay? Say they're either feeling suicidal or depressed or whatever. So we get to see a lot of unhappy people every day. So now what happens is they tend to connect emotionally because they feel that this is one person who understands me, who empathizes with me, who does not sympathize, like she said, who does not take advantage, who's neutral, who's unbiased, etc., etc. So now an emotional bond develops. Sometimes, yeah, up to a particular extent, like she said, so far it does not affect the professional relationship. It is okay. But it's not okay to be a friend. You could be a friendly counselor. You could be a friendly psychiatrist. You cannot be a friend to your client. Okay, there's a small difference between the two.
There's a line.
No. Yes. So what happens is when the patient, when the client develops feelings for you, it's called transference, which is very common in psychiatry. That's not a problem so long the therapist or the doctor or the psychiatrist is stable enough, is mature enough, knows his or her own boundaries, it's okay.
Yeah.
But sometimes it can be the other way around. It could be a counter-transference. The therapist or the psychiatrist himself or herself develops feelings
for the client.
And it's a time to refer, not to see the client again.
Okay, right. So you just draw the line. And quickly, Dr. Sthapna, we'd also like to
Yeah, in my case, I seem to be a different from a little because of my subject. In my subject, I have to be in love with the kids because it's my subject. I do not deal with one-to-one patient basically, except for in some cases, I need to go out to the community where I deal with a lot of patients, and we need to see that, okay, this community, these children are not being immunized. Why? At that time, I need to be in love with them. I need to have that emotional bonding with them. We need to go and in fact feel as if I'm amongst them for a few, I mean at least those few days helps. So at that time I need to be more emotionally bonded with them, whether it's a mother, I need to be close to her so that she can tell me her empathies, she can tell me her problems. Trust.
But can I say something on a lighter note?
Yeah, of course.
It's so beautiful to actually have a bond, emotional bond with a mother or a child. But imagine an emotional bond with a single psychopath. So how will that be?
Right,
I mean,
right.
he'll take you for a ride.
Each of your
He'll take you for a ride, and you'll not know where you stand.
Subject wise. Subject as yours is a scary thing. But for me, it's actually an advantage if you have that bond, because it's nice, you know, when I get calls from, I mean, one of the mothers from interior village, and now she even keeps in touch that, okay, I had a baby, I'm doing this, and how are you? I'm fine. I mean, you know, I have that.
Definitely.
It gives you a sense of
That's
satisfaction.
beautiful actually.
Sense of fulfillment.
Fulfillment and satisfaction as
So
well.
in this, I think in these years of our professional life, our profession takes us in different modes of closeness with our.
We are all in love with her profession.
Exactly.
By the way, Baido, even you and I have relationships like that.
Oh yes, we do. We do. And we love that.
It is not just your privilege.
But then again, I'd like to know, you just said that, you know, it requires you to fall in love with your patient. So how do you manage to disconnect the minute you're out of that zone?
From them?
Yeah.
Because, after that we just try to get the problem settled, whatever, if they're not getting the immunization or whatever, and then that's where we get disconnected.
Disconnected,
After that,
and then you draw the line.
The fulfillment.
The
fulfillment that it's done.
Right, exactly.
I'm done with my work.
Right.
My responsibility is over.
Is over. Okay, that's lovely. And I think it's very important as doctors to be able to strike a balance, to know how emotionally involved you should get with a patient, and especially if you're dealing with psychiatric patients, psychopaths.
Type of patients.
Different types
Certain
of patients,
types of
certain
patients,
types, you
yes.
need to learn how to draw the line. And also I think one very important thing I've learned from this, you know, very enriching conversation is that the society needs to change. You know, our perspective towards female doctors needs to change. If we're respecting male doctors, I think we should give the same freedom, same independence and respect to women who are doing the same kind of work. I think that is
Absolutely.
We do get it, but sometimes
we
there's
don't.
a
And I think for those
have
few
faced it,
people
so I shared
who
a
you know,
personal
are still maybe not being able to give the doctors the kind of respect they deserve, I think they need to change as well. So hopefully we have been able to contribute towards that through the show that we had. And once again, thank you so much, doctors. Lovely ladies, you three of you are looking lovely, ravishing.
You
I
too.
must say thank you so much.
thank you.
And thank you for
Having us
being
here.
on Women's World. I think for a change we got to see and listen to the unheard stories. We often always see you in the white coat, but today for a change we got to hear the stories that you don't share with people very often. So I think that was a wonderful, you know, experience for me as well.
We were actually talking today with each other instead of one.
Right. So that's wonderful.
It's like waves below the ripple.
Right.
After the show too.
After the show too. Okay, so with that, I wish we could continue, but then unfortunately we've got time restrictions, so we'll have to wrap up. Well, viewers, with that, we have come to the end of this episode of Women's World. I learned so much. I think we need to change. So does the society. There are lots of hardships that female doctors go through. So the next time you encounter one, I think hats off to them. So I think we must do that as patients, as people who encounter them. And I hope this episode of Women's World was helpful, enriching, entertaining, and also informative as well. So we'll be back with a fresh episode of Women's World next Tuesday at 3:30 p.m. But until then, keep watching Northeast Live for more news and latest updates. Thank you so much for joining us.